And we are live. What is up, guys? So, bunch of things to get into tonight. First of all, I'm obsessed with this new show called Landman. My buddy told me about it like 2 days ago. My friend Cam, who was on the other day, and I literally watched all 9 episodes in the last 2 days, like when I was on the treadmill and stuff, and it's freaking sick. I love I love shows like they're great, like truly great shows more than a great movie because I always find it sad when like a movie is just an epic movie, but that's like all you're ever going to see from it. Like for whether it's the story or a great character that you're just going to get like an hour and a half, 90 minutes of that. So, and talk about that. And also talk about Sam Shoemate, the guy that was on Shawn Ranch the other day, like did a complete 180, super weird video that came out. He was on the podcast. I'm gonna show you that video. Then TMZ had an article about how the guy who did the New Orleans terrorist attack scoped out the area with meta glasses like months beforehand, and then was wearing meta glasses when he did the attack, but wasn't recording at the time. So like it's like this is like one of the only situations that I could ever remember where like the more time goes by, like the less I feel like I know about the situation. Like normally as the thing goes on, you're like, all right, I'm getting a feel for what actually happened here. But with this one, I literally feel like I understand it and know less about it every day with like the new stuff that comes out. So, and also, I think that the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell specifically, is sabotaging Trump. I mean, could point to this pretty easily for based on what they did during his last administration, but like there's already big problems happening with like how strong the dollar is getting, not in terms of purchasing power, but in terms of like the what do you call it? Like the DXY, so like the actual like FX part of it. But I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. Big problems around the world for what the dollar's doing. And then China is no longer expected to surpass the US in GDP anytime soon, if not ever, which I've been saying that for years. No surprise there for me, but everybody's been acting like China's going to surpass the US in the next 10 years. Not happening according to the Wall Street Journal. So I'm going to show you that. Yeah, dollar. So I know it's a surprising thing to hear dollar getting too strong. I'm going to show you that later. But first, guys, have you seen the show Landman? Because I'm obsessed with it right now, and it's like it's not a totally irrelevant show for what's going on in the world today. So it's about an oil company in Texas. Like this guy played by Billy Bob Thornton, John Hamm's in it, and shows like kind of the world of like what goes on with Texas oil and like how savage is and everything. I'm gonna show you a quick trailer of it quick.
Oil and gas industry makes $3 billion a day in pure profit, generates over $4.3 trillion a year in revenue. It's the seventh largest industry in the world, ranked ahead of food production, automobile production, coal mining, and at $1.4 trillion, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't even crack the top 10. The industries listed ahead of oil and gas are completely dependent on oil and gas. The more they grow, the more we grow. That's the scale. That's the size of this thing. But before any of that money is made, you got to get the lease. You got to secure the rights and lock up the surface. Then babysit the owners, babysit the crews. That's my job. Secure the lease, then manage the people. First part's pretty simple. It's the second part that can get you killed.
Yeah, absolutely freaking sick. So it's been like I'm excited about this personally because I mean it's been a long time since like a great show has come out. It's from the creator of Yellowstone, which I'm pretty salty about. Like I didn't even watch the last season of Yellowstone yet because it was about to be like a top five show of all time for me personally. But then I heard what happened with this last season, and it seems like he kind of pulled a 180 on us. Let's see who's seen it so far. Put a one in the chat if you started watching Landman. Put a two if you haven't started watching it yet. Yeah, Taylor Sheridan. I don't know. I don't know. Do we like Taylor Sheridan? Like he's a sick director, obviously, but I mean, like, is it like I don't know. I've heard some people say that he kind of hooked us in with Yellowstone and then did a 180 where like the show was going one direction and then like politically it went to the entirely opposite direction. All right, so we got some guys who've seen it. So I just highly encourage you guys to watch that show if you haven't seen it yet, because not a lot of good ones come out these days, and I think that like to do a great show is so much more impressive than to do a great movie because, or at least I like it more because like you know you get like 10, 20 hours of some of like greatness rather than just like 2 or 3 hours of it. If you have like Let's see. Tulsa King. I haven't seen Tulsa King. Oh yeah, the opening scene of Landman is freaking sick. It's like him getting like beat up by the cartel and like being like savage negotiating with it. It's sick. So I don't want to do any spoiler alerts or nothing, but I just wanted to like bring that to your attention. If you have not watched that show yet, check it out. I think it's on Amazon Prime. With that said, the next thing that I want to talk about is super weird. This guy, Sam Shoemate, does a complete 180. So this is the guy who was on with um what's his name, Shawn Ryan, the other day, and like I don't know if somebody spoke to him or if he got creeped out or like, but just this combined with Shawn Ryan going into hiding, super weird. Like I said, I feel like I know less about this every day that goes by. So check this out.
So after I did the interview, a lot of people, nobody knew that I had the manifesto. I had to be very quiet for a day. So people were messaging me and they're like, have you heard of this guy? Have you seen this? Blah, blah, blah. And they didn't know I wasn't posting on it. People expect me to post on these relevant incidents like this, because just like I had posted on the New Orleans guy. So I was like being very quiet because Shawn was like, dude, you haven't told anybody, any other media you have this, right? I was like, no, nobody. I wasn't going to put it out on my own social media because people would be like, dude, you made this up. I knew I couldn't handle this information on my own. So anyways, after I did the show and it blew up and people were like, holy crap, they knew who I was. And people on my Instagram page started telling me things. So I had a lot of people reaching out, telling me what they had talked to, but with their Green Beret buddies. One person reached out and told me they had a very close connection to members of the family, which I won't go into. But what I've learned since then, and I'm going to say allegedly because I don't have proof of this, but I've had 3 people tell me this. Allegedly, Matt Livelsberger changed his meds several days prior to this incident. I don't know what several days means, but what I was told by
Now, real quick, that right there, like, I don't know, guys in the military, like, I thought that you had to be like basically, like in a state where you are completely, not dependent on any type of medical, like medication or medical treatment or anything. Like, wasn't that the whole argument that Pete Hegseth was making against like transgender people and special forces? Like, where you can't be dependent on medical needs if you're in that, right? So I don't know how like can you be a Green Beret and like and be on psychiatric medication? Is that a realistic thing? Like what are you saying here? I'm gonna keep playing it while you guys answer that.
several people who I value their input and are close to the situation told me that he was on antipsychotic medication. He had changed his medications, and they said that basically something crazy happened and he became suicidal. So people ask me, is he sane? Was he whatever? Well, I've gotten 2 stories on this, and I want people to hear me very carefully on this because I am saying 2 different things at the same time. What I have heard from family members, and this is what I put out. I think I put this out on the Shawn Ryan podcast because I heard this from, I saw this on social media. I have not personally talked to any family members. Let me make that clear. I saw on social media that members of his family had said that this was not normal for him. He was very normal. He was very sane mind. His teammates were shocked. Everybody was shocked because he was not a crazy dude, whatever else. And that's what I knew. And then after the podcast, I found out that it was literally he changed his medication within days of this event and something shifted. So if his family had not seen that within the days of this, he could have been acting very bizarre, very strange. And the manifesto that he wrote, along with these letters and everything else, the guy was clearly, and I will stick to this. His desire was to send a message. It wasn't to do a mass casualty event. It wasn't to screw anybody over. It was to make this message as prominent as possible. And I still believe that. He was not trying to blow up that tower, in my opinion. He was not trying to blow up the tower. He was not trying to kill a bunch of people. The dude, and I say this respectfully to his teammates. I say this respectfully to his family. The dude had a screw loose, okay? I'm not going to get into the labeling of him. I don't know what his situation was, but I believe that he had a psychotic break. Whatever he was living with from whatever he thinks happened in 2019, whether it happened or not, these alleged war crimes, maybe what he knows about drone warfare and technology, maybe that was real. Maybe it was coupled with fantasy. Maybe his brain, and it mushed the 2 together. And it was all very bizarre. And that's my initial take when I read the manifesto without knowing the context of who this person was and what he was about to do. So I think, I don't think, I will say this, I'll back up. I put out a theory, and I made clear that it was a theory of him potentially being alive. And I walked through the steps of that. I don't think he's alive now based on the information that has come out from the Las Vegas Police Department. I think he is in fact dead.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust this guy, Sam Shoemate, dude. I mean, that's a big flip to make in just a few days. So there's this other video too from the video of the Cybertruck. I don't know if it's I don't know if I think it's that big of a deal, but I think a lot of you guys are talking about it where it shows where'd it go? Pretty much shows like the person being upright in the Cybertruck when the blast goes off, like indicating that he didn't shoot himself in the head already. Is it in here? I think it's way down. Anyway, but yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, it's getting like less clear what happened every day. Like, I don't know. Do you guys trust this guy, Sam Shoemate, for making a flip like that? I mean, like, it's pretty crazy to say that, like, he goes on Shawn Ryan's show saying like that, like, oh yeah, this guy's like, highly capable, highly competent, like he contacted me through all these secure methods and whatnot. And then, like, oh yeah, I think he's still alive because this was like a carefully thought out plan. And then like a day and a half later saying that he had a screw loose and that he was on medication and that he had a psychotic break. I mean, that's weird to me. Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't think I trust the guy Sam Shoemate, and like I wish Shawn Ryan was coming out saying like more at least, because I mean it's not a great look for him if like he had this guy on who's unreliable and then like isn't like if you have somebody on and like the guy's totally wrong, at least like come out and say like, hey, like I got duped. I messed up having this guy on. I should have vetted him more carefully. But like if you're not gonna come out and say that, then like it looks really bad for you. Like I said, still a win for him, like because he got all this attention that day. But like to be a trusted source, like come out and correct it, like even if it's embarrassing or whatever. Yeah, too much flip flopping for sure. And then to add to the weird things that are happening, oh man. So check this out. Like I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if it's connected at all, but it's definitely without question weird. So look at what happened in New Orleans. I don't know if any of you guys seen this, but so the New Orleans district attorney was found in his car not alive. I think just today. So New Orleans Parish Assistant DA found not alive by apparent this word sources confirm. I'm not going to say that word because I guess like YouTube's been dinging us lately for saying that on here. So New Orleans PD initially report said victim was found from suffering some form of apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. EMS arrived on the scene, pronounced him dead. An assistant assistant district attorney with New Orleans Parish DA's office said, yes, there we go. It said that. Let's see. According to the New Orleans Police Department, major offense log, a brief document outlining overnight crimes sent to media outlets. This incident was reported as a blank around Saturday, 9 p.m. Initial report said, yeah, okay. So no further information at this time. So, I mean, I don't know. I looked up on Grok and asked Grok if this guy was connected in any way to the investigation of the terrorist thing. And Grok said no, he was in a different department. But I mean, like, I don't know. I think it's weird for somebody to be found like that in their car like 2 days after this thing. Like, obviously, it'd be like the weirdest thing if he was like looking into this case or had something to do with it. Like, we're not there. We're not ready to make that connection. It's not like that. But I don't know. Like I said, like just weird stuff every day. Watch every episode of Landman. It's fantastic. I know, dude. I wish there was more episodes of it. Like I'm obsessed with it. It's sick. And it's like super relevant to right now. Like they talk about nuclear energy and whatnot. They talk about like the like how you lobby Congress people and whatnot for it. But don't let me stray too far off from what we're talking about. Like, so yeah, this district attorney from New Orleans just like, turns up dead in his car from an apparent. So I don't know what to make of that. I really don't. I don't know what to make of that. But one thing I can say is that it's different from any other situation because like the more days that go by, the less we know about it. And then I see this from TMZ. So check this one out. More curveballs. So this dude who did the New Orleans thing, they're saying he scoped out the area with meta glasses. Ready? So New Orleans terror attack suspect used meta smart glasses during visits months back before attack. The man responsible for the New Orleans terrorist attack used smart glasses to record the area that he would carry out his attack during a visit to the city in months leading up to the deadly rampage, authorities announced on Sunday. The FBI said that Shamsud Dem Jabbar, who drove his pickup truck and who grabbed people on Bourbon Street on New Year's Day, visited the Big Easy in October for at least 2 days, used meta glasses to record a video of him riding a bicycle through the French Quarter, the area where he would carry out the attack months later. Authorities said Jabbar was wearing a pair of Meta Smart glasses the day he carried out the attack, but didn't activate the glasses to record the horrific. So they're saying he was wearing the smart glasses when he was doing the terrorist attack, but didn't activate them to record it. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. So the FBI said at their press conference that the Army veteran pledged allegiance to ISIS, began staying at a rental hotel, blah, blah, blah. According to the FBI, Jabbar, based on information provided by the public, Fed said there's still piecing together details surrounding the trips. Yeah, so that's just another weird thing that he was using these things to scope out the area. Then he was wearing them when he did the attack, but wasn't recording when he did the attack. Which you would think like that's like they're all about that shit. They would like, of course, he'd be recording during the attack, but I don't know. I wonder at this point if like they're just throwing in extra details to like like make us waste time wondering. I'm all I know is that I don't trust like the official narrative and like I'm not gonna like go crazy with any theories or like take the bait and run off in any direction or the other. But I think they're trying to really do like the old bait and switch thing here with us and like kind of mislead us or have us go off in the wrong direction. But I'm definitely highly paranoid about what's going on lately. So I even got myself one of these this weekend. So little gun bag, put it in here, boop, bunch of rounds in this thing. I think like 40 or 50 rounds, so it could be on me at all times. And yeah, because I wasn't highly paranoid at the point of like constantly carrying on me like 24/7, but now I'm definitely at that place in time like where like I would feel super vulnerable not carrying on me in any situation because I feel like there's been an activation switch hit, and they're like recruiting, they're encouraging people to do this shit. Get a backpack, that's too cumbersome. This thing, it's cool. It's like you could just literally like sling it over your shoulder, and it's like right here. So that's what I'm all about. Then next thing. So should we do China or should we do the dollar next? Oh, let's do China quick. So the Wall Street Journal's finally caught up to what I've been saying for years, that China's not going to be surpassing US in GDP anytime soon, because China's got some crazy problems going on right now. That's why people are saying that they might try to do something with Taiwan right now. Like it's like a now or never situation, because like their economy is like just cascading. And I mean, it's a really counterintuitive problem where they have like major deflation, the price of everything's going down, which you would normally think that's a good thing, but like they say, since people expect things to keep going down, they're waiting to buy them. So that's really bad for businesses, because businesses keep having to lower their price. People keep saying, oh, they lower their price every few weeks, let me wait to buy. So bad trend for that. And like I guess all of it's because like they're just producing so much stuff and they have so much manufacturing that like it's deflating the prices of things, which like normally that'd be a great thing. Like I always say that's what we need for like the core things like food, housing, and energy. But not as good when it's like for just shit that you would find at Walmart. So from the Wall Street Journal, China's economy no longer expected to overtake the US in size until the mid-century, if at all, according to some long-range forecasts. The ticking time bomb, China's facing a demographic headwind. Oh, wait, let me. So China's rapid growth for years meant for forecasters expected China to overtake US, the world's largest economy, as recently as 2019. Some forecasters were expecting China's GDP to eclipse the US around 2030. Today, it's the US powering the global economy, and China is battling stumbling growth. Few now expect China to catch up with the US before the mid-century if it manages to at all. So in 2015, that was its forecast. In 2019, that was its forecast. In 2024, that's the forecast. So a lot of this is its demographic problem. Like you've seen the pyramids before where they have like twice as many old people as young people. And then like their debt to GDP, it's like 300% versus the US and Europe, it's like 200. So much worse there. And like I think they printed like 3 times the amount of money as the US, but a lot of that's not even accounted for. And pretty much like every measurable thing you could look at, China's worse off. And so, it's like nothing where we really have to do like a whole like diatribe or presentation with it. But I think there's two things here. There's like one thing is that it's unsettling when a country is in this type of position because it's like almost like a now or never mentality. Like that's really what put Russia in the position that's in right now. Because like Russia had the same demographic situation as China, where like they were like best set up to do what they're doing with Ukraine right now than they were ever going to be like in the next 10, 20, 30 years. So China, same thing. Like they're probably like in that now or never stage. Like I don't know if they're going to have the balls to do it, but like, that's the concerning part is that like they're best set up to do it right now versus like any time going forward. So I mean, shit, look at this. Like there's manufacturing like crazy, but like they're not having kids. Like there's even this thing like where like a huge portion of kids in China, like they just are basically like protesting from participating in society. Like they're like just like defecting from it. Like they're either going out into the country and being a farmer, they're like just like staying in their rooms, like in their houses, not working and not participating in society because it's like, geez, it's like a real ominous situation for them. Like there's not enough women for men. There's like it's like a fraction of the country you could afford to even buy a house there, which it's crazy by the way. Like there's enough empty houses in China to house the entire population twice, but most people like even to even get a house, you have to start paying your mortgage before you could even like your house is even built. So it's like a real ass backwards place, and I don't think they're heading in a good situation. So on the positive side, they're not going to pass anytime soon. They're not going to overtake us as the reserve currency. Nobody wants the yuan. So the dollar in the U.S. is in a much stronger position, but like they might feel like you can make the argument that they might feel like they need to do something right now with like Taiwan or whatever, but like shit, they have like what 15 days left to do that. I think they need a lot more than 15 days to take Taiwan, and like I don't think they'll have the balls to do that under Trump. But honestly, I'll even say like I think if China did a all out attack against Taiwan, I don't think it wins because like it's freaking deadly to try to take over an island, especially an island like Taiwan. Like Taiwan's basically like it's like a mountain in the middle of the ocean. Let me see what you guys are saying. Yes, I'm in Florida. Why do you ask? Manuel Morales. Feed that fireplace. Yeah, like all they really do is build. They just like their entire economy just depends on them just building shit. Even if it's not for anything, it's like they just want to pay people to build shit. Oof. It's cold in Texas, so I freaking love Texas. I lived in Fort Worth for 1 year, and I think it's one of the coolest places ever. I'm in Fort Lauderdale now, but I miss Texas sometime. I definitely think I want to make that a place I visit regularly. Damn, Ohio's getting snow. Yeah, so I visited Connecticut for Christmas like last week, and it was 7 degrees there. And I said to my entire family, I have no idea why you guys are doing this to yourselves. And they all said, whole family's here. I'm like, yeah, well, that's like I said that to the parents, said to the grandparents, and they both said, well, like family's here. I'm like, well, yeah, like the other people said the same reason. So if you all collectively moved down here, then the whole family would be here, son, and you wouldn't have to deal with 7 degrees in the winter. Like I can't think of a single positive thing about a cold winter unless you love to snowboard or ski, which I do, but that's like a weekend thing. That's not like an entire season thing. Yes, gotta stay strapped. So the last thing that we need to talk about is the dollar and what's happening with the dollar. And this might be a little bit nerdy for some of you guys, but you gotta understand the inner workings of the financial system. Rico says, I don't think China wants Taiwan as much as they want their credit payments back from the US. Are you talking about how they loaned us like a lot of money and like a lot of the US treasuries are owned by China? Because see, the thing with that is that it's all right. Hit like we need like a warning button or something for if I start going off too crazy into the macro stuff. But let's see. Just like some messages like stop if I'm getting too crazy with this stuff. So the thing with US treasuries, like which is like the debt that China owns, that's for whatever reason, it's like the number one most trusted asset in the world. So like if you want to take out a loan in the world, like you go get yourself US Treasury, right? Like anytime you want to borrow money, you get yourself a US Treasury. So that's like the primary reason that a place like China would want to have a ton of US Treasuries because like they need to borrow dollars to do international transactions, right? So China's not even like China. The people look at it as if China's doing us a favor by owning U.S. Treasuries, but no, like, that's something they need for themselves to exist. So it's not a thing where we can't pay that back. Like we like China wouldn't like demand it back because if they're demanding it back, they're exchanging treasuries for dollars, but they need treasuries to take out the loans that they would take out. Does that make sense? So like the main essence of what I'm trying to say is that like China's not doing us a favor by owning that debt. They're doing something they need to do for themselves to operate. Yes, let's go, Brandon podcast. Sabrina says, I almost bought into teaching in China and I changed my mind and stayed home. Good call. Wonder what that would be like though. That would be interesting. I mean, I wish like I would you guys be afraid to travel to China right now? Like I want to go there, but thank you, Manuel, for the congrats. Thank you. Now we gotta get a mill. Yeah, no, I would like to travel to China, but I don't know, like I'm not all that confident that I wouldn't get like just like charged with something like the way that Brittany Griner did. All right, so last thing before we go, because we're trying to make this a nice, concise one, is what's going on with the US dollar. So this is gonna cause some problems for the rest of the world in a major way. Let me show you what's going on here. So since the Fed is going against what they said they're going to do, so they said they're going to do 7 interest rate cuts. I think they said last year or this year they're going to do that, and they only did like 3, I think. So the rest of the world did what the Fed said they were going to do. So they cut rates, and what happens when the rest of the world cuts rates and the Federal Reserve doesn't? This right here, the DXY goes up, and that's a problem because that means that say you're, I don't know, Mexico, and you take out a bunch of dollars denominated loans, then you have to like when this goes from here to here, your repayments, like it's like an adjustable interest rate, like it goes exponentially higher, and like then countries end up defaulting on loans. So every transaction in the world, pretty much, like you have to, if you're another country, you have to take your pesos or your I don't know, yen or whatever, and you have to go out and exchange it for dollars on the exchange rate, right? And then you have to like like if Japan wants to buy something from Australia, Japan has to go exchange their yen for dollars, and then they paid Australia in dollars, right? So the yen has been just cratering compared to the dollar over the last year or two because they keep their rates at like negative. So when that happens, that like puts pressure. Like when this thing goes up, it puts pressure on the entire world. Like you've probably heard Trump say it before, like the dollar's getting too strong. So you see in 2022 when the dollar got too strong, that's when the stock market started to have a difficult time. And this gets into like a bigger thing where like, we always talk about who owns the Federal Reserve, what are their incentives, because I do not trust them for 1 second. And we're actually doing my next like deep dive episode that I'm making for the Rothschild series is going to be about the Federal Reserve. So we're 5 parts into that right now. If you haven't seen that yet, it's the playlist, The Men Who Built the Men Who Broke America. So right now, the book of the month for my book club, we're reading a book called The Federal Reserve Conspiracy by this guy named Eustace Mullins, who's a beast. And he talks about like the real ownership of the Federal Reserve. And like the reason I'm talking about this is because like you have to wonder what Jerome Powell's incentives are, because he's like pretty much did everything in his power to help out Biden, to make things easy for Biden. And they made things easy for Obama during Obama's administration. I'll actually show you a chart of that. So let's see. Quantitative, or should I type in Fed balance sheet? So I've shown you guys this before. So this is the Fed's balance sheet. This is how many mortgages or bonds or US Treasuries the Fed owns. And when they buy these things, it pushes the interest rate down and eases the economy, right? So when the rates go down, it makes money cheaper. It makes people spend money more. It makes money, people want to buy assets, right? So 2008, to take pressure off the economy, they bought a shit ton of mortgage-backed securities and US Treasuries, right? So it's like the first real use of this program. Then in 2016, right when Trump gets elected, this number starts going down for the first time. Then it goes up when COVID happens in a big, big way. And this actually right here, this is why. So in 2022, we had like crazy inflation. So they started to taper this off. And this spike right here, you'll remember this was that banking thing that what the hell was it, that banking crisis that happened in March of 2023. So they started a new program that they put a different name instead of quantitative easing. I think it was called the what the hell was it, the bank term funding program. That's what it was called. They called it a whole different thing, but it's quantitative easing. That's what it was. So they bail these banks out like through like tricky terminology. Then it starts going down again. And that's why mortgage rates are still going up, even though the Fed rate's going down, because they own a ton of mortgages with this stuff. This is what is it? $6 trillion, I believe. Yeah, $6 trillion worth of US Treasuries and mortgages are owned by the Federal Reserve. So this is one mechanism that they're going to pound Trump with. And then the other one is rates. So like, this is easy for you guys to know. You guys probably know about this. Fed funds rate. You may have heard me talk about this before, but can't talk about this one enough. So look, so ready? Like an entire presidency, Obama's entire presidency, shit stays at zero. Then right when Trump gets in the door, they start jacking it up. And then it zero for a bit for the first 2 years of Biden's presidency. And then they jack it up again, like real quick. Like this was reckless here, how fast they put it up. And but the funny thing about this is that people were still borrowing at 0% because like there's this thing called the yen carry trade where the like so Japan, they were like the first ones to do this quantitative easing thing because their economy just blew up in the 80s. And what's happening right now, since like our rates went up to 5%, everybody's saying like, oh, well, how's our market still at record levels with rates at 5%? Like maybe it's because of the 6 trillion that we pumped into the economy, or other people speculate that it's because of this thing called the yen carry trade. So Japan interest rate. Let's look at this. So this is Japan's interest rate. And a lot of people think that what's been happening since we jacked our rates up is that people like the big heavy hitters from Wall Street they borrow in yen and then they convert their yen to dollars. So they could effectively borrow at like 0.25% or borrow at like negative interest rates, which it was for, like the last 20 years, it was at zero. And then, so look, you remember there was like a little bit of some market turbulence a few months ago. It was because the rates went from, I think it was like 0.10% to 0.25%. And that just like blew up our market for a day or two because people borrowed in that. And then, like when it goes up unexpectedly, because they expected this to stay the same for a long time, then it just blows everything up. So I know it's a lot of crazy talk there, but I think that Jerome Powell is trying to make conditions difficult for Trump because the tariff things are already difficult enough, but like to make the dollar stronger than it needs to be, then that's going to make that even more difficult because you need the dollar to be a bit weaker for the import export stuff to be correct. Oh, thank you, Sasquatch. I appreciate that. So what do you think? Does listening to these poor countries act like they can beat America in a war makes me mad. Let's do it. Yeah, no, it's funny. So it's funny to see like the Panama government or the like Denmark government or Canada talking shit about us. But a cool thing I saw the other day though was man, I forgot to even show this. Let me show this quick. So Trump said the thing about Greenland, and Denmark came out all like, oh no, we're not going to do that. But then the Greenland prime minister comes out and says like, oh yeah, we're actually going to declare independence from Denmark. Let me see if I could find this. Prime minister. Look, check this out. So let's see. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Greenland's leader wants independence from Denmark as Trump hovers over Arctic island. What do you say? It's now time to take the next step for our country. Greenland's prime minister Mute Egede says, hinting at 2025 referendum. Prime Minister of Greenland called for independence from Denmark and removing the shackles of colonialism. In a strident New Year's address this week, Greenland, the world's largest island with a population of around 60,000, was a Danish colony until it became self-ruling with its own parliament in 1979, blah, blah, blah. So is he doing this because he likes what Trump is saying, or because the renewed call comes after United States President Trump once again suggested buying Greenland from Denmark as a proposal he made during his term? Blah, blah, blah. U.S. acquiring the Arctic territory is absolute necessity, which I think it is. I definitely think it is. Greenland Prime Minister said it's now time to take next steps for our country. Like other countries in the world, we must work to remove the obstacles to cooperation, which we can describe as the shackles of colonial era, and move on, he added. Under a 2009 agreement with Denmark, Greenland can declare independence only after a successful referendum, which Egede appeared to hint at holding in tandem with its island's upcoming parliamentary election in April. Work has already begun creating the framework, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm interpreting this as like the guy's down with what Trump's saying. Hours after Trump's post, Denmark announced it would boost defense spending in Greenland by at least 1.3 billion, although Danish defense minister said the timing was merely an irony of fate. So I take this as a good sign. I think it's promising. Right? Like, I mean, what do you guys think? If there is a war, then when you invest silently. Huh? If there is a war, though, that when you invest silently. So I think that that sounds like the Prime Minister of Greenland might be down for what Trump is saying, because I don't know, like, I'm sure you guys all know what, like, I've seen the map before, but let's see. Map of Arctic trade route. So this is essentially what Trump's talking about. So, like, now that this is, I guess, is thawing out a bit, this is a whole new trade route. So it's kind of weird to look at from this POV. Let's see. Is there a better map? But yeah, like, once that stuff thaws out, it essentially, here, this is a good one. Once this stuff thaws out, like, I mean, essentially, like, puts Russia at our doorstep, and here we go. Wait, what? Oh yeah, so that's Alaska, I think. Yeah, so that's a huge liability to not control that. I gotta look into this stuff more, to be honest. But, like, it's a totally reasonable thing to bring up, I think. What do you guys think? Are you guys in favor of buying Greenland? Do you think it's a good return on investment? Wars here look at the bombardment of bullshit from all around. Fog of war and our own govs cooking up psyops and drones and orbs. Yeah, I know. I'm, like I said, more concerned about what our own deep state's doing than what any other country's doing. Like, I went to school for national security thinking, like, all blindly and innocently that like, working for the CIA was, like, the best way to put America in a better position of strength. And then, it's like a laughable thing to think now. So I think that enemy number one's these government lifers who just been trying to play God behind the scenes. And yeah, I think that China's an easy problem to handle. I think Russia's an easy problem to handle. But I think the people who are entrenched in our government that, like, want a completely different vision for the country than we do, I think that's the more dangerous thing. Yeah, no, 100%. So dirty. Have you guys ever heard of the book called The Committee of 300 by John Coleman, who's a former MI6 officer? It's a crazy book. That was the first book I talked about in my book club. Insane book. So the guy starts off as a MI6 intelligence analyst, and starts feeling like, they're saying that our job is to, like, stop the spread of communism and like into third world countries and all that, but it seems like we're doing the opposite of what we're intended to be doing on paper. So he starts asking questions, looking into it, and realizes he's working for this, like, crazy evil network called the Committee of 300 that it's like 300 people who basically control everything in the world, and it's like you don't hear anybody talk about this, but there's like a crazy, crazy, crazy book about it. If you're interested in that, DM me, or you could check out my book club on what is it, Telegram or Patreon. And yeah, we really dig into it because there's some crazy stuff in there. And then he has another book about like the socialism agenda, and it kind of ties together like socialism and globalism for like a one world government. It's kind of like the same thing. And that is why I'm doing like a certain topic that I'm doing that I'm gonna talk about in a few days probably. So thank you, Rico. Thank you, Rico. So guys, with that said, still have to work out and do some errands tonight, but we'll be back tomorrow night. I don't know who we're gonna have on tomorrow night. I'm trying to do like one or two people with me every night just to like keep it fun and social and all that. But and then like I'll ask you guys after a few weeks who you like and dislike as guests, like for my friends that we're having on. But yeah, I'll see you probably 8:30 tomorrow night. Love you all. Thank you all for watching on this Sunday night. Stay safe, stay blessed. Love you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.